The 1980s had a cheese problem. A glorious, magnificent, completely unashamed cheese problem. Between the synthesizers, the power ballads, the shoulder pads, and the hair that defied both gravity and good judgment, the decade produced some of the most wonderfully over-the-top music in history, and we loved every single second of it. Today we are counting down 15 of the cheesiest songs the 1980s had to offer. These are the tracks that make you cringe and sing along at exactly the same time. The ones you claim you don't like until they come on at a party and suddenly you know every word. Stick around for number 1. It may be the single cheesiest 3 minutes ever committed to tape, and we mean that as the highest possible compliment. If the 80s still make you reach for the hairspray and the leg warmers, hit that subscribe button and tap the bell so you never miss a retro rewind video. Drop a like if you're ready to celebrate the cheese, and tell us in the comments which 80s song is your ultimate guilty pleasure. Now let's dive in. Number 15. 99 Luftballons by Nina 1983. Nina released 99 Luftballons in Germany in 1983, and it became a massive international hit. A bubbly, synth-driven pop song about 99 balloons accidentally triggering a nuclear war. The German version is genuinely brilliant. The English version, retitled 99 Red Balloons, is a masterpiece of unintentional comedy in which the translation irons out all the poetry and replaces it with lines that sound like they were written by someone who had learned English from a phrase book the previous afternoon. The video featured Nina performing with what appeared to be the most enthusiastic band in Europe, all of them clearly having the time of their lives. The combination of nuclear dread and bubblegum pop production created a tonal cocktail that should not have worked, and yet somehow became one of the defining sounds of 1983. Here is the thing about 99 Luftballons that elevates it above mere cheese. The original German lyric is actually a thoughtful piece of Cold War commentary. The cheese is almost entirely a product of translation and production choices. The bones of the song are solid. The flesh is pure processed dairy, and that is exactly why we are all still here for it. 99 Luftballons has appeared in countless films, television shows, and commercials in the decades since. Every new generation discovers it and has the same reaction: equal parts delight and mild bewilderment. Quick question: German version or English version? Drop your pick in the comments. Number 14. Take on Me by Aha 1985. Take on Me is one of the most purely joyful pop recordings of the entire decade. The synth riff is completely irresistible. The video is a genuine work of art that won every MTV award available, and Morten Harket's vocal reaches notes that most singers would not even attempt without a safety net. It is also, when you examine it carefully, almost entirely cheese from start to finish. The lyrics describe a romantic pursuit so earnest and so breathlessly committed that they circle back around from sincerity into a kind of delirious absurdity. In a day or two, he will say the things he is struggling to say. He needs some time off from that emotion. You will be coming for your love. Okay. The sentiment is genuine. The phrasing is magnificently odd. The song was actually released twice before its famous 1985 version without charting. Aha persisted, returned to the studio, rebuilt the arrangement, commissioned one of the most innovative music videos ever made, and turned a previously ignored song into a worldwide #1. That is a remarkable story of determination completely at odds with the song's breezy, effortless surface. The pencil sketch animation in the video cost more than most feature films being made in Norway at the time. Every frame was hand-drawn, with the live action and animated sequences requiring months of painstaking work. You would never guess any of this from watching it because it looks like pure spontaneous fun. That gap between apparent ease and actual effort is very 80s. Take on Me reached #1 in the US and UK and has never stopped being played. Morton Harkett is in his 60s now and still performs it live, still hitting those notes, still being impossibly handsome. Some songs and some singers are simply built different. Number 13, St. Elmo's Fire, Man in Motion, by John Parr, 1985. St. Elmo's Fire was written specifically for the Brat Pack film of the same name, and it arrived fully formed as a piece of motivational cheese so concentrated it could power a small city. John Parr delivers every line with the absolute conviction of a man who has never once doubted that he can climb the mountain, reach for the sky, or burn burning bright. The saxophone solo alone contains more confidence than most people experience in a lifetime. And you're trying to break free. The song reached number 1 in the US in 1985 and became the unofficial anthem of everyone who had a poster on their wall telling them to hang in there. It is built around the story of Rick Hansen, a Canadian athlete who wheeled himself around the world in a wheelchair to raise money for spinal cord research. A genuinely inspiring story that the song translates into the most maximally 80s production imaginable. Every element has been turned up to 11. The drums sound like they were recorded inside an aircraft hangar. The synthesizers suggest that the future has arrived, and it is wearing a very shiny jacket. The vocal is delivered at a pitch of emotional intensity that most performers reserve for their absolute peak moments. For John Parr, this appears to simply be how he sings everything. Rick Hansen himself has spoken warmly about the song and what it meant to his Man in Motion World Tour. The fact that a genuinely moving story of human endurance ended up soundtracked by the most aggressively 80s piece of music possible is itself a kind of beautiful absurdity that only that decade could have produced. St. Elmo's Fire is the kind of song that makes you want to run up a staircase in slow motion while your hair blows in the wind. If you do not feel this way when it plays, please check your pulse. Something may be wrong. Number 12, We Built This City by Starship 1985. We Built This City has been voted the worst song of all time in multiple polls conducted across multiple decades. This is both deeply unfair and completely understandable. It is an attempt by a band that had once been Jefferson Airplane, one of the defining acts of the San Francisco counterculture, to write an anthem about rock and roll's rebellious spirit, produced in a way that sounds like rock and roll's rebellious spirit has been replaced by a very enthusiastic marketing department. The song reached number 1 in the US in 1985 and stayed there for 2 weeks. Grace Slick, who had once sung about feeding your head during the summer of love, was now singing about someone called Marconi playing the mambo. The distance between those two moments is one of the great journeys in rock history. Here is the thing about We Built This City that the worst song polls miss. It is an absolutely perfect piece of mid-80s corporate rock. Every production choice, every lyrical decision, every keyboard swell lands exactly where it was aimed. It is not accidentally bad. It is a finely engineered object that does precisely what it was designed to do, which is make you feel vaguely pumped up for about 3.5 minutes. Bernie Taupin, who wrote the lyrics, has been remarkably good-natured about the song's reputation. He has acknowledged in interviews that the lyric did not represent his finest hour, while pointing out that its commercial success was difficult to argue with. Sometimes the market and the critics are measuring completely different things. We Built This City is the song that everyone uses as shorthand for 80s excess, and it earned that distinction completely. But here is the secret. Every single person who calls it the worst song ever made knows every single word. That is not a coincidence. That is a hook. Number 11, How Will I Know by Whitney Houston, 1985. Whitney Houston could sing anything. This is a documented fact. Her vocal instrument was one of the most extraordinary of the 20th century, and she deployed it across ballads, gospel, R&B and pop with equal mastery. She also deployed it across How Will I Know, a bouncing synth-pop confection about not being sure if a boy likes her, and the result is a masterpiece of adorable cheese delivered by one of the greatest voices in history. The song was actually written for Janet Jackson and turned down before Houston recorded it. It reached #1 in the US in 1986, and the video, Houston dancing in a television studio surrounded by monitors showing her own face, became an MTV staple that defined a particular vision of mid-80s pop perfection. There is something genuinely wonderful about the gap between Houston's vocal capability and the material she is working with here. She is asking, with the full power of a voice that could shake walls, whether a boy she likes feels the same way. The question is completely relatable. The instrument delivering it is completely extraordinary. That combination is exactly what makes it irresistible. How Will I Know was produced by Narada Michael Walden, who understood that Houston's voice needed a setting bright and cheerful enough to show its warmth rather than just its power. The production is pure candy-colored 80s pop, and it works perfectly because Houston finds the joy in it rather than condescending to it. How Will I Know is a reminder that cheese and greatness are not mutually exclusive. Sometimes the greatest voices of a generation want to make a fun, bouncy pop song about a boy they like, and when they do, it goes to #1. As it should. Number 10, Danger Zone by Kenny Loggins, 1986. Kenny Loggins spent the mid-80s as the undisputed king of the movie soundtrack, recording Footloose in 1984, and then following it with Danger Zone for Top Gun in 1986. Danger Zone is everything the 80s believed about itself: aggressive, confident, slightly ridiculous, and completely committed to the bit. It is the sound of a decade that had decided subtlety was for other people. The song reached #2 on the Billboard Hot 100 and became so completely identified with the Top Gun film that the two are now essentially inseparable. When the sequel Top Gun Maverick was released in 2022, the song returned to the charts 36 years after its original release. That kind of longevity is not accidental. That is a genuinely great piece of pop craft, wearing a very loud jacket.
I will fire when I am goddamn good and right.
The production by Giorgio Moroder is a lesson in controlled bombast. Every element, the guitar, the synthesizers, the drums, Loggins' vocal, is pushing at maximum intensity simultaneously, and yet somehow it never collapses into chaos. Moroder understood that great pop music can be as loud and as big as you want as long as the structure underneath is solid. Kenny Loggins has spoken about how Danger Zone arrived at a specific moment in his career when he was looking for something harder and more aggressive than his previous work. He delivered on that ambition so completely that for many people his entire career is now summarized by this one song. There are worse legacies.
What's that? Who's the best pilot?
Danger Zone is cheese of the highest quality. Sharp, aged, slightly overwhelming, and impossible to stop eating once you start. Tom Cruise running toward a fighter jet in slow motion was just the visual that the song had always deserved.
Your mission is to get support without rescue. I will fire when I...
Number 9. Don't You Forget About Me by Simple Minds, 1985. Simple Minds did not want to record Don't You Forget About Me. They turned it down twice. The song had been written specifically for The Breakfast Club, and director John Hughes had offered it to several other artists before it landed with Simple Minds, who agreed to record it only under significant label pressure. They have described the whole experience as reluctant at best. It went to number 1 in the US and became one of the most beloved songs of the entire decade. Jim Kerr's fist pump delivery of the closing refrain, "Hey, hey, hey, hey," became the defining moment of The Breakfast Club's finale and embedded itself so completely in popular culture that Simple Minds have been performing it at every concert for 40 years, whether they wanted to or not. The song is a perfect delivery mechanism for the specific emotional register of being 17 and convinced that your feelings are more intense than anyone who has ever lived has ever felt. That conviction is cheese, obviously. It is also completely true when you are 17. The song holds both things simultaneously and refuses to apologize for either. Simple Minds have gradually made peace with Don't You Forget About Me over the decades, acknowledging that its reach and its meaning to audiences justifies its place in their catalog. Jim Kerr has said that watching people in the audience sing it back to him at full volume tells him everything he needs to know about whether the reluctance was worth it. Don't You Forget About Me is the song that proves the best cheese is made from real milk. The emotion underneath the big production and the pumped-up delivery is genuine. John Hughes knew what he was building, and he was right. Quick question: does this one still get you? Drop it in the comments. Number 8, I Want to Know What Love Is by Foreigner, 1984. Foreigner had been making hard rock records for nearly a decade when I Want to Know What Love Is arrived in 1984 and turned everything they had done before into a footnote. The song is a power ballad of such epic proportions that it required an actual gospel choir to fully realize its ambitions. Lou Gramm delivers the vocal like a man who has genuinely been waiting his entire life to ask this specific question. It reached number 1 in both the US and the UK and became one of the best-selling singles of 1985. The New Jersey Mass Choir, who provide the choral backdrop for the final section, were brought in by producer Mutt Lange, and their contribution transforms what was already a very large song into something that feels genuinely enormous.
Together, here we go.
The cheese here operates on multiple levels simultaneously. There is the lyrical cheese of a grown man in a rock band confessing with complete sincerity that he wants someone to show him what love is. There is the production cheese of the building orchestration and the gospel choir arriving like reinforcements in the final act. And there is the performance cheese of Lou Gramm committing to every single moment with zero irony and total belief.
Come on, Chris, give me a beat back there. Come on, play that thing.
That last element is what saves it. You cannot make great cheese, ironically. The reason I Want to Know What Love Is works is that everyone involved believed in it completely. The choir believed in it, the producer believed in it, Lou Gramm believed in it so thoroughly that his belief becomes the listener's belief somewhere around the 2-minute mark.
Let it soak in. I want y'all to feel what's going on now.
I Want to Know What Love Is has been played at weddings, funerals, graduations, and breakups. It has appeared in more films and television shows than anyone has counted. It is precisely as much as it says it is, and nothing less. That kind of earnest ambition is the very soul of 80s cheese. Number 7, Kokomo by The Beach Boys, 1988. The Beach Boys recorded Kokomo in 1988, more than 20 years after their commercial peak, for the soundtrack of the film Cocktail. It reached number 1 in the US, their first number 1 since Good Vibrations in 1966, and became one of the best-selling singles of the entire year. Brian Wilson was not on the recording. The song was written by 4 people, none of whom were original Beach Boys members. It is perfect. Kokomo describes a fictional Caribbean island paradise where nobody has any responsibilities. The drinks are cold, the bodies are warm, and absolutely nothing bad has ever happened or ever will. The lyrics are a catalog of real Caribbean place names: Aruba, Jamaica, Key Largo, Montego, strung together with the kind of tropical imagery that makes you want to book a flight immediately regardless of your financial situation. The song is so relentlessly sunny and so completely committed to its own escapist fantasy that resistance is essentially pointless. You cannot listen to Kokomo and feel stressed. This is not an accident. It is an engineering achievement. The song was specifically designed to make you feel like you are already on holiday, and it delivers on that promise every single time. Music critics in 1988 were not kind to Kokomo. The consensus was that it was lightweight, nostalgic, and unworthy of a band with the Beach Boys' legacy. The public responded by making it #1 and keeping it there for a month. The gap between critical reception and audience response has rarely been more instructive. Kokomo is the song that everyone plays on the last day of a beach holiday when nobody wants to go home. It knows exactly what it is, and it is exactly that without apology or complication. In a decade full of songs that tried too hard, Kokomo's cheerful simplicity is almost radical. Number 6. Never Gonna Give You Up by Rick Astley, 1987. Rick Astley was 19 years old when he recorded Never Gonna Give You Up and possessed a voice so deep and so soulful that radio listeners who had not seen him assumed they were hearing a large American man in his 40s. When his face appeared in the video, young, ginger, slightly awkward, dancing with enormous enthusiasm and limited coordination, the disconnect became one of the great surprises in pop history.
We've known each other for so long.
The song reached #1 in 25 countries and became the best-selling single of 1987 in the UK. Written and produced by Stock Aitken Waterman, the SEO production team who were responsible for approximately half of all chart hits in Britain during the late 80s. It is a precision-engineered piece of pop machinery that hits every mark it aims for with complete accuracy.
I gotta make you understand. Never gonna give you.
The internet transformed Never Gonna Give You Up into the Rickroll in the mid-2000s, creating a second cultural life for the song that Astley has embraced with considerable good humor. He has rickrolled audiences at his own concerts. He rickrolled the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in 2008. The man understands that being the face of the world's most beloved prank is a kind of immortality most artists would envy.
I'm never gonna.
Here is the truth about Never Gonna Give You Up that the Rickroll phenomenon sometimes obscures. It is a genuinely excellent pop song. The production is flawless, the vocal is extraordinary for a teenager, and the chorus is so well constructed that 40 years of repetition have not diminished it. The cheese is real, so is the craft. Rick Astley retired from music in 1993, returned in 2016, and has since had one of the most remarkable second acts in pop history. Never Gonna Give You Up was always the beginning of his story, not the whole of it, though it will almost certainly be the first line of his obituary. He seems fine with this. Number 5, Final Countdown by Europe 1986. The opening keyboard riff of the Final Countdown is one of the most immediately recognizable pieces of music in the world. It has been used at sporting events, television programs, theatrical performances, and countless moments requiring the announcement that something significant is about to happen. Joey Tempest of Europe wrote it on a cheap Casio keyboard in his bedroom. It sounds like the launch sequence of a space shuttle. The song reached #1 in 26 countries in 1986 and became the signature track of a Swedish hard rock band who would never quite replicate its success, but never needed to. The combination of that keyboard riff, the thundering drums, and Tempest's soaring vocal created something that felt genuinely epic, the sound of humanity reaching for the stars, or at least for the upper register. The lyrics describe leaving Earth for Venus because the narrator believes the Earth will be destroyed. This is delivered with complete seriousness over a production that sounds like the 80s idea of what space travel would feel like. The gap between the cosmic subject matter and the hair metal context is enormous and completely wonderful. Europe has been asked about the Final Countdown in every interview they have given for 40 years. Tempest has said the keyboard riff came to him fully formed one afternoon, and he immediately knew it was going to be something special. He was right in ways he could not have imagined. The riff has taken on a life completely independent of the song, of the band, and of the decade that produced it. The final countdown is the song that plays in your head when you are counting down to anything. A deadline, a birthday, a new year, a moment of decision. It has become a cultural shorthand for anticipation itself. That is an extraordinary thing for a bedroom keyboard experiment to become. Number 4, Total Eclipse of the Heart by Bonnie Tyler, 1983. Total Eclipse of the Heart is 8 minutes of the most operatically committed power ballad in recorded history. Jim Steinman wrote it, Steinman produced it, and Steinman's fingerprints, his love of gothic drama, enormous orchestration, and lyrics that treat every emotion as a matter of life and death, are on every single second. Bonnie Tyler delivers it like she has been waiting for this specific song her entire life. It reached number 1 in the US and UK in 1983 and became one of the best-selling singles of the year. The video featured a brooding school, mysterious boys with glowing eyes, ninjas, and enough dry ice to fill a moderate-sized swimming pool. It made absolutely no literal sense and looked incredible. It was directed by Russell Mulcahy, who approached it as a short film about everything simultaneously. The lyric turnaround is repeated so many times across the song's 8 minutes that listeners have counted the repetitions. The number varies depending on which version you are measuring. What does not vary is the effect. By the final turnaround, you are completely inside whatever emotional universe the song has constructed, fully committed and entirely unable to leave. Jim Steinman originally wrote the song for a Bat Out of Hell sequel and conceived it as a male vocal. When it became a Bonnie Tyler recording, something shifted. Her raspy, worn voice gave the desperation in the lyric a physical quality that a cleaner voice would not have found. The cheese and the genuine emotion became completely inseparable. Total Eclipse of the Heart is the benchmark against which all power ballad cheese is measured. Everything that came after it was either trying to reach this level or deliberately avoiding it. There is no third option. Number 3, Sussudio by Phil Collins, 1985. Phil Collins named a song after a nonsense word he invented while playing with a drum machine, and the result went to number 1 in the US in 1985. Sussudio describes a crush so consuming that the narrator cannot even articulate the person's name properly. It just comes out as a made-up syllable that somehow perfectly captures the inarticulate intensity of infatuation. This is either brilliant or completely absurd. It is both. The song was accused almost immediately of sounding extremely similar to Prince's 1999. Collins has acknowledged the resemblance and noted that he was heavily influenced by Prince during the period he was writing it. Whether this constitutes homage or something more legally complex has been debated without resolution. Prince himself made a comment about it at the time that was not entirely complimentary. The production is pure mid-80s Collins. Enormous gated reverb drums, punchy horns, and a groove that is simultaneously too tight and too fun to resist. It is the sound of an incredibly accomplished drummer who has decided that the most interesting thing he can do with his talent is make people dance in their living rooms. He was correct.
Just say the word. Just say the word. Say the word.
Collins released 4 number 1 singles from his No Jacket Required album in 1985. Which remains one of the most commercially dominant years any solo artist has had in the rock era. Sussudio was the one that made critics most uncomfortable, which is probably why it remains the most fun. Discomfort in critics is often a sign of genuine pop achievement. Sussudio is a nonsense word that became a number 1 hit. That sentence is a complete summary of everything the 80s were. Say it out loud right now. Sussudio. You are already smiling. That is the whole point. Number 2, Islands in the Stream by Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton, 1983. Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton recorded Islands in the Stream in 1983 and produced a duet so warmly, cheerfully, perfectly cheesy that it became one of the best-selling country singles in history. The chemistry between them is completely undeniable. The production by Barry Gibb of the Bee Gees is a masterclass in 80s country pop gloss, and the whole thing sounds like being wrapped in a very comfortable blanket on a slightly cool afternoon. The song reached number 1 on both the country and pop charts simultaneously, a crossover achievement that demonstrated how completely Rogers and Parton had each transcended their genre boundaries by this point in their careers. They were not just country artists. They were American institutions who happened to be making records. Barry Gibb wrote the song after the Bee Gees' commercial fortunes had declined following the disco backlash of the early 80s. Producing a massive hit for Rogers and Parton was a reminder that his songwriting instincts were as sharp as ever, even if the market for Bee Gees records had temporarily contracted. The song sounds like it was written by someone who genuinely loves making people happy through music, because it was. The video features Rogers and Parton performing together on what appears to be a very pleasant boat, looking at each other with the warm amusement of two people who know exactly how good this is and are enjoying every second of it. Their mutual affection is completely genuine and completely visible. Some performances cannot be faked. Islands in the Stream is comfort food for the ears, familiar, satisfying, slightly too rich, and impossible to stop consuming once you start. Rogers and Parton knew exactly what they were making, and they made it as well as it could possibly be made. The cheese is intentional, the joy is real. Number 1, The Power of Love by Huey Lewis and the News, 1985. The Power of Love was written for Back to the Future in 1985, and it arrived fully formed as the platonic ideal of 80s cheese, a song so aggressively, unashamedly, triumphantly of its moment that it could not have existed in any other decade. Huey Lewis delivers it with the cheerful confidence of a man who has never once doubted that love is in fact a curious thing, and that it might just save your life. It reached number 1 in the US and became the sound of 1985's most beloved film. The combination of Lewis's bar band roots and the film's time travel premise created a strange cultural moment in which one of the most purely 80s songs in existence was attached to a movie about escaping the present. The irony appears to have occurred to nobody involved at the time. The lyric operates entirely in the register of absolute statements. Love is a curious thing. It might just save your life. The tougher you get, the harder it hits. There are no qualifications, no nuances, no acknowledgement that love is also sometimes confusing, disappointing, and difficult. This is cheese of the most optimistic variety, a vision of emotion as pure forward momentum. Huey Lewis and the News were a genuinely excellent live band with real musicianship underneath the pop sheen, and The Power of Love benefits from that foundation. The horn section is tight, the rhythm section locks in completely. The production has just enough grit to stop it floating away into pure confection. The craft is real even when the sentiment is enormous. The Power of Love is number 1 on this list, not because it is the worst of the cheese, but because it is the best of it. It represents the 80s at their most completely, happily, magnificently themselves. Loud, bright, sentimental, and absolutely convinced that love and power belong in the same sentence. 40 years later, it still makes you want to go back to 1985 and stay there. Which, now that we think about it, is exactly what Back to the Future was about. From Nina's balloons triggering the apocalypse to Huey Lewis explaining the power of love with complete conviction, the 80s gave us 15 songs that never once apologized for being exactly what they were: big, bright, sentimental, synthesized, and gloriously, defiantly cheesy. Here is the truth that this list proves. The best cheese is never accidental. Every song on this countdown was made by talented people who believed in what they were creating and delivered it with everything they had. That commitment is what turns cheese into something you remember forever. And you do remember every single one of these, every word. So tell us in the comments, which one is your ultimate guilty pleasure? Which 80s cheese do you blast when nobody is watching? And which one did we miss that absolutely deserved a spot on this list? Drop it below. We read every single one. If this one had you singing along with the door closed, hit that like button and subscribe to Retro Rewind for more deep dives into the music that defined the decades. Tap the bell so you never miss a video. Share this with a fellow 80s survivor because the cheese is always better when you enjoy it together. We will see you in the next one.